When I was younger, I always had a bear called Pogo. No, a bear called Teddy and a dog called Pogo. But yeah, I love soft toys. Rupert the bear I got in a charity shop in Norwich quite recently. I like snuggling up to them. That was probably why I always like cats as well. Maybe it's part of not living communal anymore. I like things around me. It's really weird, kind of like being on your own. So it's nice to have the sort of company of either real animals or soft animals. I never even thought about that. Yeah, maybe that is why why I have them all around me. My family. My name's Mandy. I'm 65 years old and I'm currently working as a model and an extra. The thing is, I absolutely love clothes. I love second-hand shops, and doing extra work is an absolute fantastic opportunity for me to buy loads of different clothes because I might possibly need them for a shoot. I mean, when I was in Norwich the other day, because I really like Halloween as well, I found all these cloaks. Again, which I love. I just love dressing up. I have since I'm a kid. So any old kind of tat that sort of catches my eye, I will buy. So I've got things like feather boas and hats. Oh yeah, I love, I've got a whole array of hats, hundreds of hats. It's quite good doing extra work because I used to wear hats all the time when I was younger, and then I stopped wearing them. So it sort of reintroduced me to them, and they're good. I think they can really change your image. You put a different hat on. So yes, so I'm always on the lookout for hats as well. Home's like a weird one for me because I had a very kind of disturbed childhood. Father was alcoholic, although he was a GP, and was actually very violent. So I remember, I think my earliest memory was him kicking my mum downstairs, her landing at my feet and having a broken nose, 2 black eyes and blood everywhere. But I never knew any difference. That was sort of my home. My default setting of home was kind of chaos, disarray, running battles. I mean, that was just sort of normal. I left home after doing my A-levels in 1976, and in 1977 I moved down to London. In those days most young people squatted. It was very popular, it was the main thing to do. So I went along to the Squatters Advisory Service, who gave me a couple of addresses, one being St Agnes Place, which is a whole street full of properties. Actually, there were probably about 40 or 50 houses there, which were all occupied by squatters. And the weekend after I visited it, I moved in. Right, now they've moved the road over, so the original St Agnes would have come down here. So I'm just trying to locate where the actual houses I lived on would have been, because the street came round out that way and turned round. So this was, I think, the old street. So this would have been where the old street swung round. So there were no houses on this bit, but this bit, straight through, would have been the original road. So you'd have had a terrace of houses on this side, a terrace of houses on that side, going straight up. Then you'd have a scrapyard where they'd bulldozed those and had to demolish some of the houses in 77. You'd have the park, the open park on that side at the end of the 2 terraces of houses. On the other side of the scrapyard, you'd have the remaining houses at the end, which are still standing. There'd always be people around. Even if your housemates weren't in, you knew you could go, if you wanted to talk to someone, you could go and knock on next door, and you'd got friends who lived in other houses. So you never had to be lonely. There was always stuff going on. We'd have street parties the whole street. So in the summer, before the scrapyard was there, you had this big sort of wasteland of grass. We used to build a stage at one end and you'd get bands would come and play. You just have these fantastic sort of street parties that would go open air street parties and go on all night. Yeah, it was just fun. I wonder what it'd be like to live there now that I'm older, if it would annoy me. Looking back, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Never really known what home was, and that was the first time I actually felt, I think, living in St Agnes without all this sort of, violence and chaos, that I actually felt like a real home, I think. But yeah, it's kind of quite melancholy. It's quite sad to think back. Because you don't have, not having those links anymore with the past. Well, I'm still in touch with a few people who live in St Ag. I mean, the whole sense of community's gone. And I just haven't found that in any place I've lived since. I mean, you know a few of the neighbours, but not all of them, not the whole environment. So yeah, changing times. And it's sort of almost like halcyon days looking back at St Ag in a lot of ways, but I think they were. I mean, I think sometimes I'm romanticising it, but I don't think I am. I'm just glad I sort of spent my formative late teens and early 20s living there. I think it sort of made me a kind of more interesting person, really, than if I'd been sort of stuck in a bedsit on my own.